it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English News Edition. For tonight headlines, we have the Egyptian army celebrate the 43rd anniversary of its founding. For the international scene, Europe reopening borders at an attempt to harmonize. Welcome to our newsroom. It was the 43rd anniversary of the Egyptian Armed Forces, known as ADF, a colorful ceremony where the national flag was flown over the front of the Camp Sheikh Osman. As in tradition, this ceremony was held at first light. The 43rd anniversary is placed under the aegis of the Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, Mr. Hassan Umar Mohammed Burhan, and because of the health constraints related to the pandemic of COVID-19, this year's ceremony was characterized by a symbolic seizures of arms with highlighting devices that replaced the traditional military parade.
Colonel Hassan Abedi, commandant des troupes, mes devoirs, mon général.
Upon his arrival, the Minister of Defense was welcomed by the Chief of General Staff, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. The Minister of Defense, Hassan Umar Mohammed, saluted the flag and they carried out the review of the troops. No less than 10 corps from the defense and security forces have participated in the national fervors. Miss Noteworthy was the participation of the Commander of the Republican Guard, the Commander of the Coast Guard, the Director General of the National Police, the Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie. On the ADF side, the major officials participate because of the fight against COVID-19 pandemic that is raging around the world. The ceremony was placed under the order of Colonel Daher Hassan Abadi, the Chief of the Corps of the Armored Regiment. his speech delivered by Colonel Mohammed Qayad Naji, Chief of Staff of the General, who spoke on behalf of General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, he began by paying tribute to all the men who make up the Djiboutian Armed Forces.
Des armées.
Also in his speech, CMGA stressed the commendable effort made by the EDF in the Express CMGA recount the balance sheet of the EDF over the past years. And after the speeches, Defense Minister Hassan Omar, accompanied by General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, senior military officers, visited the grave of the fathers of nation, the late Al-Hajj Hassan Guled Abtidon, imploring the Almighty to have his late lamented remains in his holy mercy. After the festivals, the Minister of Defense Hassan Omar, accompanied by CMGA, immediately went to the still of the martyrs monuments of laying the rest with a dua, a solemn act that aims to maintain the collective memory and pay a deserved tribute to the challenges of those who died for the fatherland.
فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون صدق الله العظيم. اللهم اغفر لشهدائنا وشهداء المسلمين، اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم احشرهم مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. اللهم لا تحرمنا أجرهم ولا تفتنا بعدهم واغفر اللهم لنا ولهم ولجميع أموات المسلمين يا رب العالمين. الفاتحة لهم.
Finally, the day ended with a refreshment offered by the military high command. This moment of relaxation had vibrated to the rhythm of sound and melodies interpreted by the group of armed forces artists known as Harbi. The ceremony, full of fervor, ended with the traditional family photo.
Yeah.
Following yesterday's death of the late Musa Ahmed Idris, a Djiboutian politician, the Minister of Labor in charge of administration reform, Ismail Ibrahim Roble, expressed his sincere condolence to the families and relatives of the deceased. May God welcome him in his eternal paradise. The Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf and all the ministry's officials, the Secretary General of the Parliamentary Office, Naguib Abdallah Kamil, Colonel Mohammed Jama' Douale, Commander of the Republican Guard, as well as Ambassador of Djibouti in Germany, Mr. Aden Mohammed Dileita, former Ministers Abdi Yusuf Suge, addressed the sincere sadness condolence to the family of the deceased Musa Ahmed Idris, in particular to his daughter Ubah Musa, a foreign minister's affairs. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The meeting between the Minister of Interior and the customary leaders of the municipality of Balbala following the riot of Thursday afternoon, June 4, 2020, caused by a video posted on social networks by former Air Force Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali. The tensions in Djibouti's prison. Interior Minister Moumin Ahmed Sheikh this morning sensitized the elders, the leader of the different neighborhoods and intellectuals of the municipality of Balbala regarding the hate propaganda and false information is recently conveyed in social networks. This meeting with these various customary leaders in the presence of peace and hate to act at the vandalism in the sector of the capital. The prosecutor of the Republic, Jama' Suleiman Ali, said in a statement, "If I have decided to speak to you this morning, it is because the treatment of current cases by certain media and social networks in recent days seems to me to be contrary in some respects to the truth. It is, of course, the so-called cases of former National Army Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali. I would first like to review the facts and the procedures, and then let us talk about the conditions of his detentions without wishing to betray the secrecy of the investigation, since this case is still the hands of the investigating judge hearing the case of respecting the presumptions and innocence of the accused. I would like to remind you of this Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali, born in 29 this October in 1978 in Djibouti, Djiboutian nationality, military pilot and lieutenant in Djibouti Air Force, decided on 15 March 2020 to fraudulently take away to Djiboutian Air Force plane to go to Eritrea. The accident, Lieutenant Fuad Ali, a Djiboutian Air Force pilot, was unable to get the plane off the ground, and after several maneuvers, the plane crashed into another Air Force aircraft and grounded against a boarded, blocked and unusable well. Mr. Fuad fled and disappeared into the while reappearing on social networks in an Air Force officer's tunic and making threat against his military hierarchy. The Air Force Chief of Corps then filed a criminal complaint against Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali, an Air Force pilot, for an attempt theft of a military aircraft and threat against his hierarchy. Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali reappeared again on social networks, still in Ethiopian Air Force officers' uniforms, declaring that they were on their way to Eritrea in an introductory indictment of 9 April 2020. The public prosecutor decided to open a judicial inquiry against former Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali for attempting to steal a military aircraft, destroying this aircraft, and having relations with a hostile foreign power, in this case Eritrea, and also for having published and maintained the comments and speeches that were detrimental to national defenses. An international arrest warrant was issued on the same days, on 9 April 2020, by the investigating judges against Mr. Fuad Ali, and executions of their international letter migratory and international arrest warrant. The Ethiopian Judicial Authority arrested Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali and decided to extradite him to Djibouti on 20 April 2020. On 21 April, the officers of the Djibouti Directorate for Counter-Terrorism Coordination and the Fight Against Organized Crime notified the international arrest warrant to Mr. Fuad Ali, and he was brought before the examining magistrate on 29 April 2020. Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali was indicted by the examining magistrate on 22 April for attempting to steal a military aircraft, destroying the aircraft, maintaining the relationship with a hostile foreign power, in this case Eritrea, and publishing words and comments in the press of a violent nature, including hatred and undermining his national defense. During his initial interruptory investigation before the investigation judges on 22 April 2020, the accused Fuad Yusuf stated that he took note of the charges, but that he did not want to make any statement. Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali was rewarded in custody in Djibouti prisoners on the same days. 11 April, Fuad Yusuf Ali has been assisted since the first days of his arrest by Mr. Zakaria, a lawyer at the Djibouti Bar Association. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recall that the extreme seriousness of the charges against Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali. Among the various offenses with which the accused is charged, I had highlighted the offenses of the crimes of treason, which is defined in Article 132 of the Djiboutian Criminal Code as being committed by a Djiboutians and soldiers in the service of the Republic of Djibouti. Article 152 of the Djiboutian Criminal Code also defined reasons as a crimes and stated that its crimes handed over to a foreign power, it's either corpus and belonging the national armies being understood as a portions of the Djiboutian territory. This is a crime, life is imprisonment. Article 137 of the Criminal Code also defined the reason as insurance of the information is that regarding national defenses. Article 137 is also defined treatment of the punishable by 50 years imprisonment. This is to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, to extreme seriousness fact that and blame it on the ex-pilot Lieutenant Fuad Yusuf Ali. The prosecutor hammered say, I would like to say a few words now about extreme diligence. The Djiboutian justice system is being extremely diligent in the dealings with the cases, sometimes in the particular onto of the COVID-19 pandemic, when judicial activities was totally interrupted of COVID-19 by a request filed by the lawyers of the accused Mr. Fuad Yusuf the lawyer Zakaria on May 15, 2020, the defendant asked the judges and the investigating judges for this provision release hospitalizations in the indictment of 17 May. The public prosecutor opposed this request for provisional liberty and orders of the 18th May. The investigating judges rejected the defendant's request. The accused appealed against this order, refusing his release before the examining magistrate 31 May 2020 through the lawyer Mr. Zakaria. The indictment chambers of the Court of Appeal, which is the appeal Courts of Appeals in the matters of investigations, the Court of Appeal of Djibouti met on Thursday, June 4, that is to say yesterday morning, but neither the accused and the counted who last night were able to attend the appeal court rolled yesterday mornings on the request for provisional release and the request for the hospitalizations ordered and medical examinations of the detained persons Fuad Yusuf Ali to see whether this state of health required hospitalization. The Court of Appeal appointed Djiboutian doctors in the Dr. Hamadou Ali and Dr. Ilyas Said Diriye as expert to determine whether for the state of health is ultimately required hospitalization and that the lawyer Zakaria for anyone else speaks of exemplary treatment for the Djiboutian justice system in relation to cases formerly Fuad. To end, the prosecutor Jama Suleiman said, I would like to point it out that Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali is being held in a civilian prison. That may seem trivial, but I would like to point it out that in the Republic of Djibouti there is never emergencies on our military jurisdictions over that. In this case, the offenses with which the accused is charged was committed with the particular circumstances that he was a serving officer of the National Army. Understand that the video that was circulated on social networks may have provoked some reactions. Also, I would like to join to point it out that the video shot by Mr. Fuad Yusuf Ali does not film by the entire cell, but just the last times I reminded you that the so-called 12 cells within the prisons are individual cells within the courtyard, and that accused well the opportunities to apprehend that from the other cells where there are several inmates. The Minister of Justice has moreover suspended to the director of the prisons while also awaiting the criminal investigations which any conducted under the control of the public prosecutor. Finally, I reminded you trial that in the early days, the emergencies of the COVID-19 pandemic, the President of the Republic pointed 20 convicted prisoners out of the totals about 600 inmates in order to relieve congestions in Djibouti prison. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saying that not only does the Republic of Djibouti respect the dignity of the human person, but above all, we did not want to wait for the declarations of Zakaria's masters as for his gates to appear on social networks to reflect that the President of the Republic ordered the construction of the new prison on the Pika 53 side, said the findings in the Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Saleh Benoita Turab, has given the daily press briefings of the Saturday, 6 June 2020. The data of the COVID-19 epidemic is as follows: 617 cases of COVID-19, 1,046 positive cases, and 1,080 cases cured, and zero deaths. As for the global balance sheet, it declines as follows: 35,000 tests were performed, 4,169 positive for COVID-19, 1,815 cases were confirmed cured, and 26 deaths in total. Stay, protect yourself and protect others. Stay, be vigilant. The COVID crisis has impacted and obviously the economic of our countries, and above all the tourism sector is one of the sectors most affected by the COVID-19, and opportunities is presenting with the development of local tourism. Djibouti has magnificent places to spend holidays, whether cities in attitude with the regions Al Sabih and Artas, and in the mountains of Dai, Randa, Adelu, Wi'ima, the regions of Mabla, and the Musa Ali mountains, the regions of Tujura, the seasides with the magnificent sides of Musha and Maskali Island, the magnificent beaches in the regions of Tujura, Oboh, and Arta. This will enable Djiboutians to discover the President of the Republic, Ismail Margele's first campaign, the Misuris, the Director of the Tourism, Mr. Usman Abdi, awareness raising and distribution of hydroxyl gels and masks to the passenger and bus driver. The Secretary of State for Youth and Sports, the young leaders of the districts mobilized early this morning in the various bus stations hosted found for the interior region, Tajura Holhol Al Sabih Dekhel, to proceed with the distributions of mask, gloves, and hydroxyl alcohol gel. These awareness raising activities initiated by the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Hassan Mohamed Kamil, and which is part of the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, aim to remind the population to protect the parameters intact. The public health specialists, the aim is to raise awareness of the population to wear masks on public transport in particular, but also all the places where physical distancing cannot be respected. The Association for the Protection of Safeguarding and Environment of the Al Sabih region is better known as ASPERA, organized Friday the World Environment Day in the rural agricultural locality of Asamo. World Environment Day was initiated by the United Nations in 1971 on the occasions of the opening of the United Nations Conference in the Human Environment in Stockholm, highlight specific issues of importance to the environment that is different every year. This year's global theme was the protection of biodiversity, and the local theme was the protection of biodiversity for a rational use of the nature and the protection of the animal called berwa, an endangered animal species located in the 13th. The ceremony say under the edges of Daher Absi Awled, and at the next was attended by the prefect of the region, Musa Adan Migane, the Honorable Deputies Abdul Sikiye Hassans, the Deputy, the Member of Parliament Abdul Sikiye Hassans. In the framework of the fight against the illicit traffic of contraband goods, the BS Army, in close collaboration with the Customers Brigade of Al Sabih, intercepted in the night of 3 June 2020 an important smuggled goods in the day. So yesterday, the smuggled ration, this consists of 13 kilograms of cat and 4 packet of cigarette and Royal Benson's head smugglers wanted to bring to Asajok Syria. The customs teams and the armed security team was able to the brigade of the regions, Mr. Ismail Ali, the customer officials of the BS armed forces. For the international scene, reopening borders at the attempt at harmonization European tourists of COVID once again travel anywhere in the EU are throwing sojourns, but those from other geographical areas would have to wait until July, said EU Commissioner Eva Johansson, who is favors in the lifting restrictions within the bloc following discussions between member state interior minister. Most of any counterpart are in favor of the gradual lifting of controls in the internal borders of EU and the state of that parties of Schengen area, and said the Croatian Interior Minister Devo Bochevin as regarding external borders and coordinated approaches will be implemented as for the pandemic remains very violent in some part of the world. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us.